Hey, my name is Daniel, and in this video I'll give you a little insight about what's happened at SAP Teched regarding integration. And I'll do this a little unusual. I'll focus on what non-integration developers should take away from this. Because obviously there's a lot of things that we as integration developers take for granted, but it's not all of them that, well, and a lot of these things is also applicable to what you should be thinking about, because integration seems to be a pretty big topic that's going to affect how all of us is interacting with our systems. So the agenda I just wanted to cover here is, I'll call it the CIO guide. APIs is here to stay, and why they're important and what they mean. Then there's the SAP integration products that's obviously relevant if you're using PI, PO, or SAP Cloud Platform integration, cloud integration. And then there's obviously the big marketing term, which is SAP Leonardo with IoT, machine learning, and blockchain. So the first thing that I find was relevant here was the CIO guide that was presented. So the CIO guide is a way from SAP to position their different products and say, if you have this type of integration, this is what you should be using, and guide where their current strategy is. And it's, for me, at least for the message-based integration, it seems to be both, or most in SAP Cloud Platform integration, cloud integration, and then there will also continue be PI, PO for handling some of the other tasks. It's a good reference work. I don't think that a CIO would read it, but integration managers definitely should read it, because it gives some of the input about what you should put into your strategy, because this is SAP strategy. And obviously SAP has a lot of products coming out all the time, so this means that for ETL tools, I think there were 6 different in the guide, and now they need to add an 7th one, which is SAP Data Hub, which also is an ETL tool. You can find the guide at the link here below. A part of the CIO guide, and I think this was actually released a couple of years ago, is this ISAM methodology. This is a methodology that you should consider for figure out what are the different tools that you have. So it's really a consulting solution where you're specifying, if I have this type of integration, for instance, cloud to cloud, or on-premise to cloud, or B2B, or on-premise, what are the different use cases I have? And based on that, you may find out we want to use this product for this integration and this product for this integration under these circumstances, otherwise you would be using this tool. So it kind of highlights what you want to do, and based on that, you need to figure out, how do we work with these tools and how do we use them for something that is required for this. And obviously you may find that some of the tools for your cloud-to-cloud application or things to cloud is probably not SAP, or maybe not be SAP, but could be something else, and this methodology will also help it. But I guess, as all places, if you're starting one place, you'll probably find something that's most relevant in those specific cases. But I think no matter what, it's a good idea to have this done, because it gives you a lot of input to your integration strategy, what you should put into it, and what are the different things, and what you should be focusing on for the next period of time. APIs. I was presenting this to a couple of more financial consultants and stuff like that, and they said, well, the easy way to remember it is it's Barbie, just without the B. So, and Barbie and RFC function is much the same as an RFC or as an API. So it's the way SAP is going to deliver future integrations, and it's a really a good way to get into figure out what's happening and what's the real thing that's going on. There's api.sap.com that gives you a list of all the different APIs SAP is providing, both on S4, Ariba, Hybris, and whatever. So it's really a good starting point. If you have anything you want to do with integration, you can go here and figure out what's going on there. One of the things with these APIs is you may want to expose them externally to some of your partners or other ways. And there's a little curiosity here, and that is if you're, for example, exposing your create sales order to your customers, then you don't want them to be able to do a lot of other things or call the service too many times, so you put down your SAP system. That's why they have the API management, which is a white label of APG's APG tool that is an API management platform. And the cool thing about this is it enables you to limit number of requests, and you can cache information, do other kind of performance improvement, limit requests. So you get a way to expose less of your API to your end users, making it easier for you to manage and expose it in a good way. So yeah, obviously APIs is a lot more open than RFCs because everybody can easily code it. So on api.sap.com you can find, if you go and find any of the codes, you can actually just go into it, click, and you can see how it will generate the code. So it's much more accessible. So let me just show you here. So we go to api.sap.com, and here we have the list of the APIs. So we can see here for S4 we got some here, and here there's 128 artifacts, and I guess this will be increased over a period of time. Create purchase requisition, create purchase order. So we've got a purchase order here, and under this we can see some of the different purchase order related APIs. So I guess this one here we got the purchase order, so we can call the a purchase order. We can create a post purchase order. So we'll look at this one. We can see what are the data we need to put into this. We need to put a purchase order string. We need to put these things. If I was logged in, I could try it out, and I can get code I can use in my UI5 to call this API to Swift Java. So it's really a good way to get access to these services. I guess it may be missing a little about how you fill in this data structures, but it makes it a lot easier for you as a developer to figure out what's really happening here. Then obviously that raises a lot of questions. Does these APIs also resist on your ECC system, or only on S4 Cloud, and where do this exist? And then, as those that have been in this game long enough, you'll probably remember there was other similar technologies, some ESOR, latest I guess it was OData, and so these things pop up all the time. Maybe this time will be the time where it really takes off and differentiate itself from IDOC or RFCs that business consultants prefer because they know where they are and how they can use it. But at least the api.sap.com is a good place to start, where you can figure out these things. The only thing I haven't really figured out yet is how I can invoke this from the ERP side. So all of these APIs is consumer side, as I can see it. So there's nothing about if we are creating a purchase order in SAP, can we make any trigger that would send this message out. But I'm sure there is something, and at least when we're looking at some of the diagrams from Ariba, it seems like the S4 system is connected to the Ariba system. So there's something. I'm not sure on how to do it, and it's probably going to be a little fun to implement this. if we're looking at the cloud integration, so it's SAP Cloud Platform integration or HANA Cloud integration. So this is SAP's cloud integration tool. It's much like SAP PI PO, which is a message based, so you get a message and you deliver it someplace. It's a lot more flexible, and this is really crucial when you're doing integration with cloud providers. A lot of times cloud providers don't use don't just have one place where in web service you can deliver all the information. You need to first get a token. You need to create the customers first, then you need to create some other things, and then some other things. And if you're going to do this on premise, you create it in a process, and it's a little more complex to do it. Here you have really a flexible way of doing this and scheduling it in this specific order without having too much overhead. So for those purposes, it's really smooth to develop in. And so if you're looking at your landscape and buying all of these different things, maybe from SAP, maybe from someone else, you would probably end up with quite a lot of packages that you want to integrate. And to make this a lot easier, SAP has teamed up with the SuccessFactors Ariba guys and made some pre-delivered content that would speed up the development, so you can actually get that done much faster. Also for e-invoicing scenario, which also sometimes can be a little complex about how do we create this encryption or this thing or whatever, this will also speed up the development. That is something that you can take some of this content and use it on your PIPO system. If you're on 7.5, the latest release, there you can do some of these things in it, but you would still have to have the cloud license where you do your development, but then you run it on your local system. So this would enable you to run some of these things on premise if it makes more sense. There was a few customers' presentations, and later there's also been some, and it seems like a lot of customers is using it as a more flexible platform. There was a user group meeting where one customer was using for all the integration and getting away with PI because they were able to get rid of some of the most used integration landscape. So there's a lot of companies trying to figure out where this is moving and what you need to put into it. Then you got PIPO, which is the old integration platform. There's like 8,000 customers on it, so in that perspective, it's pretty big. In the latest release, obviously SAP has a strategy that's called Cloud First, so they are doing a lot of focus on getting as much functionality made here to the cloud. So some of the new functionality they're adding is some of the adapters got some extra functionality to support some of the use cases that customers have requested. Also, there's been wildcard in the routing, so you're able to route messages a little easier if you have a lot of systems connected through your PI system. And then it's ready to use the cloud integration stuff. So definitely we can see where the effort is spent and where you're seeing the most features, but it's still a platform that is a piece of porting, and they're also doing development on it. Those other platforms like the operational process intelligence, there was nothing happened, and I don't think there's been a service pack for the last year. So that one is not up to date. SAP Leonardo is obviously one of the big things with SAP. They want to promote this and get people to do all of these cool new things you can do. So just taking 3 of the most relevant ones from integration perspective. There's the Internet of Things, IoT, which is, where your integration department or whatever would probably need to figure out how do we connect all of these different devices that we have in our enterprise with our P landscape, and be able to track these things so we can manage them, report on them, and do these things. So obviously this has been around for a long time. I think in 1999, when I was studying, someone was putting a coffee machine on the internet. That was like the big thing. Now we want to do the same thing, but we want to do it for 10,000 coffee machines, and we want to have as little maintenance as possible. I don't think this was something that would scale that coffee machine they made that time. Then machine learning, from integration perspective, maybe not that much. So SAP is partnering with Google, using their TensorFlow for a lot of these things. SAP has created some of their own models that enable you to do image analysis, text analysis, where you could go through, put a text there, and then it would figure out, is this positive or negative, what's being said about your product. So you can take out these models, run them, you can take them out and run them directly, or you can take them out, do some modification, retrain them on some of the test data that you have, and run them in the cloud platform. So I've been working on trying to learn a lot about the machine learning, and a lot of the things that you want to do there is this thing about learning and figure out, how do we create a good model that can fit these things and work this way. And if you have something that's able to recognize signs, it's easy to get it to recognize something else just by training and a little, instead of creating a full model from scratch. Then there's the HANA 2 and the predictive engine. That's also going to be something interesting. And I think one of the cool things about machine learning in a SAP environment is we got all of the structured data. We know what are the purchase orders that was approved and why, and what are the purchase orders that were not approved. So it should be fairly simple to set up something that would just go through this and figure out, run this and figure out, when do we approve, when do we reject. Blockchain, I think this is something that is relevant for integration purposes. One of the key use cases of this is this thing about being able to have a shared truth of what's happening. So it could be shipping, it could be medical industry. So in the shipping, you would have some transport documents that some people would sign, and you'd deliver them. And this here is blockchain really useful, because you can just put in a message on your server, and it'll be delivered to the other partners. They would sign it, and then you say, okay, now we know this one is valid, and everybody agrees that we have seen this document and no one can change it back in time. So it's a trusted network of servers, which is a little different than Bitcoin, because in Bitcoin you don't trust anyone there. It's raw computational power that decides who gets to sign a certain document and deal with it. So there's some differences between these, and yeah, obviously it can be a little challenging. So yeah, sometimes you want to. So with SAP, you can start up a server in the cloud platform, and then you actually have some APIs, so you can just send your invoices or purchase order, whatever you want to share in this. And then you have some smart contracts that enable you to do optimization of what's happening here. I do hope you have liked this video. If you like it, please hit like, give me a comment about what was the thing you took away from this video. Whether something that I was forgetting to put into it. I really appreciate your feedback on this, and if this has been useful, please let me know. Thank you.